Science has shown us a new way of looking at nature, and that is the constant and creative change which is taking place around us. And we call that evolution, even though we understand it scientifically in a very, very small manner. So there is this competitive change which occurs. And you can see that in the wild of East Africa, where the prey and the predator are in constant tension, and they are ever in balance. And because of the balance, the prey becomes better every generation, and the predator becomes better every generation. Science has been able to delve into the origin of the human species from Tanzania, and where the nearest relative of the human species, the chimpanzee, which is only 2.5% difference in genetics, they still live on the banks of Lake Tanganyika. And it's worth studying their life and their way of society. But the speaker will mention that in a later dialogue. But in this, I want to share with you how mankind arose in Tanzania, and science has been able to show how they moved from there to all parts of the world, taking over 100,000 years, in settling in different parts and forming tribes having a common language. And about 10,000 years ago, they discovered farming, and therefore they settled down as a community where they didn't have to travel from place to place looking for food. And when they settled down, the human beings formed the hierarchy of society, which is the king, the farmer, the trader, the warrior, and the females became second-class citizens. All because land was the wealth. Land was the measure of security, and that had to be protected by men. And the very same men, as warriors, fought their neighbors and took their wealth, took their land, and made their own citizens wealthier. So in that sense, the very same citizens who thought they were peaceful supported the taking of wealth from others. Human beings discovered speech or the making of mortars and symbols. So if you look at the flower there, the very act of looking is a very sensuous experience, and it is recorded in the brain. You do not need a name for this. It's a sensuous experience, and such a thing is called the direct experience of that which is. The moment somebody gives a name, he can communicate it to another, and that another listens to the sound of the word and remembers it, and knows not exactly what he has pointed out, but if he says the name of this flower, the bougainvillea, then he has seen bougainvillea and is able to recall it but it doesn't recall this bougainvillea which you are able to see on the camera. So there is a difference when a name is said, that you know what it refers to, but not the unique thing which it refers to. So this is the difference, that the word is a second-hand knowledge. But it's a very useful second-hand knowledge, and it is through this second-hand knowledge that people have been able to map the world, design various forms of implements, and make different types of food, and all the things which go to make society more civilized, more comfortable, has been possible through the word. But you've got to remember that the word is only second-hand knowledge, but it is useful. What's the difference between a second-hand knowledge and a direct experience? Now the chimpanzees communicate through a variety of hoots, facial expressions, hand movements, and body language. Yet the chimpanzee DNA is just 2.5% difference between that and mankind. Professors in USA have taught the chimpanzee groups in captivity or domesticated the sign language, the American Sign Language. And they have been able to communicate with each other and with humans using the sign language. Through an evolutionary change, learned how to use his larynx and tongue to make complex sounds which resulted in speech, and from that developed language, which is symbols and models. But the rest of the animal kingdom and living beings communicated only through sounds and facial expressions and bodily language. But that communication ability was enough for them to survive. For example, tell each other where food is available, or what's the danger in front of them so that they can hide, run away. They would be calling mates using special sounds. And these few sounds were enough in the wild for them to continue to exist and propagate their species. So if you go to the jungle and listen carefully, you will hear the trumpeting of the elephant. You will hear the lion calling for its pride. You will hear the leopard saying, "Is there any female available?" And you will see the zebra yelping and shaking its head when it sees the lion. So the needs of the animals were such that this range of communication was enough to express all of it. And that's the key point, that evolution developed So the pressure for communication came after the need was built and not before. And you can see how civilization of the humans became more complex from the simple nomadic hunter-gatherer type of movement, where they needed to say, how do we capture the animal? How do we make traps? And became a farming society where the information regarding cereals, how to plant, how to water, how to gather the seeds, all that knowledge was spread across different communities and across the world, in fact. All this originated in different places by the action of some single human being who discovered a way of doing something and gave a name to it. And this was translated across different communities. So this complex need of the human society, which wanted more and more of different things, resulted in this extraordinary development of language as the means of communication. And about 3,500 years ago, they invented writing, and they were able to put what they spoke into writing. And then about 500 years ago, they discovered printing, and they distributed books in a cost-efficient fashion. And now we have the internet, the World Wide Web, where knowledge is available for everyone who is connected. So within 3,500 years, mankind has moved from a single papyrus type of writing to a very quick putting on the World Wide Web. And this really means that knowledge, or the cumulative, more knowledge on, for example, how to govern, how to teach, how to learn different skills. And so both the science, the philosophy, sociology, and so many several aspects of education are all covered by this growth in symbols and models. But the key point on all this is that ultimately it is one man's experience which is built upon by others, and so it becomes a cumulative knowledge, which is the knowledge of the community, and from the knowledge of the community it has become the knowledge of the world. So the action of the individual is important, but it results in the cumulative knowledge of the world. And that's the key thing to understand in this.